Hello, everybody. Welcome to At the Coalface Live for this Friday, the 30th of July, 2021. It is awesome to be with you again today. You can probably see from the background that I'm not where I normally am, which is I'm normally broadcasting from home, but today I'm actually in the Attain offices, and Attain are a sales and marketing agency based here in Auckland, and I'm here meeting with them today, just chatting about all things digital and e-commerce, and they were gracious enough to allow me to use some of their office space today for the live broadcast. So thanks very much to the guys and gals over at Attain. I do appreciate it. Now, as per usual, I will go ahead and work my way through all of the news that I have to talk about today. There's lots of it as per usual. I can only get through a relatively short selection of digital and e-com news for the week. Otherwise, I'd be here for hours and hours. But I try to sort of cherry pick some of the best, so the most interesting news that I possibly can, and share it with you at the end of each week. 4 p.m. New Zealand time, 2 p.m. Aussie time. So it's great to have you with me. Some of you may also have noticed that I pre-scheduled this live stream via StreamYard. And so that put a notification out on LinkedIn, put it out on Facebook, and also put a notification out on YouTube. So I guess I'll just start doing that every single week, just to remind people that it is coming up every single week on a Friday. So hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I notice it's a tiny bit echoey in here, but hopefully the sound is coming through loud and clear. So what I'll do is I'll get through all of the news, and then at the end, any commentary that comes through on the live stream from any of those three channels, from LinkedIn, from Facebook Live, or from YouTube Live, I will come back and I'll comment and respond to any of those questions or comments that come through in the stream at the end of the stream. So jumping straight into it, one of the biggest pieces of news this week announced yesterday was the Shopify's quarterly earnings report, earnings announcement. And as per usual for Shopify, it's become pretty much par for the course that they will blow away estimates, earnings estimates for them, what was forecast for them, et cetera. They always tend to beat analyst estimates, and it's just become a thing. And they've actually beat analyst estimates every single quarter since they have become a public company. Now, there was a few significant portions of this announcement that I'll call out. There's some pretty significant milestones that were announced. And one of those is the fact that they've broken the 1 billion revenue mark per quarter for the very first time. So this is the first quarter they've done over $1 billion in revenue, $1 billion in sales. It was actually 1.12 billion in sales, and that was up from 714 million a year earlier. So nearly double, not quite nearly double, but getting close to doubling of revenue year on year, quarter over quarter, year on year. So they were 120%, 129% higher than analysts were forecasting or expecting for the quarter. So just absolutely blowing those estimates out of the water again. And they're on track to top $4.4 billion for the full year, which is actually 52% higher than last year. So they're absolutely on a tear, mopping up market share at a furious rate of knots, announcing massive new announcements. I'll get to a couple of those soon. But they are, at Unite this year, their developer conference, which was virtual this year, they announced a whole slew of new platform enhancements and actually re-engineering of significant parts of the Shopify platform to keep up with the market and make sure that innovation stays high and demand stays high for their platform. So they're obviously doing a pretty good job of it, absolutely killing it. They also recently passed the $200 billion valuation mark as a company, which is just stratospheric, obviously. Also, their shares are actually up 34% over the past 3 months, while the S&P 500 has risen only 5%. So, nearly 7 times what the S&P performance has been. They have done over the past 3 months or past quarter. So just absolutely phenomenal results. And as I said, they usually beat analyst estimates anyway, but this was just a huge beat. Now, obviously, there are some lingering concerns in the background around recent leadership departures in the business, the culture memo from CEO Toby. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they wrestle with the growth that they're experiencing, combined with what they've called out as part of this earnings report, they did call out the constraints on their growth, not so much because they can't acquire new merchants, but the constraint on their growth is actually engineering talent, engineering capability. They'd set out to hire several thousand new engineers this year, haven't been able to do it because of COVID. They're finding the hiring market to be hyper competitive for senior software engineers. So they've called that out as a key constraint to growth. So it's going to be interesting to see how they wrestle with this, whether they look to go down the path of hiring, acquisition-based hiring. So do they start buying agencies? Do they start buying some of their app vendors to acquire their development talent and development capability, knowing that they already know how to develop software for the Shopify platform? It'll be very interesting to see how they deal with this engineering capability constraint that is really every single major tech company in the world is dealing with right now. There's just not enough software developers, not enough software engineers in the world as the world accelerates towards a tech-driven and a tech-centric future, just not enough developers to make that happen. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they deal with that over time. Now, one of the other announcements that they made was that they, just this week, they announced that they are going to support the selling of NFTs directly through Shopify storefronts. So they currently, out of the gate, are going to support the Flow and Ethereum blockchains for the creation and selling of those NFTs. And the other unique thing, I guess, about this, whereas most NFTs today are sold on NFT marketplaces, basically almost like the equivalent of an Amazon or an eBay, but for NFTs. And typically those marketplaces only support the purchase of NFTs via cryptocurrencies. The unique thing about, I guess, this change by Shopify, or this support by Shopify, is the ability for end customers to buy NFTs through a Shopify store using their standard credit card and Shop Pay. So any of the standard payment methods that are supported on your Shopify storefront will be able to be used to buy NFTs. So quite interesting that NFTs are still very much on the bleeding edge, non-fungible tokens, which are effectively a store of digital artistic value and smart contracts on the blockchain. Still very early days in the NFT space. It's a bit of the Wild West, probably not quite as Wild West as cryptocurrencies themselves, but certainly very early days in everybody's trying to figure out how NFTs can be used in their business, can be used as part of their brand, and the NFL announced that, not the NFL, the NBA, Chicago Bulls, launched its first ever NFTs on a Shopify store. And I think I read that something like all of the NFTs that they had for sale sold out in something like 90 seconds or something crazy like that. So it was huge demand. And they even had, I guess they created digital versions of some of their NBA championship rings, which they sold as NFTs. So some really creative uses of NFTs to store digital art, digital creative pieces, digital stores of value for artistic endeavor on the blockchain using smart contracts. So going to be interesting to see, I guess, now that NFT merchants, people that want to sell NFTs, so maybe it's individual creators, for example, Shopify is going to make this easier and more accessible than ever before for NFTs to be produced and sold by your average person on the street, and much easier for consumers to ultimately buy and then resell themselves. So going to be a very interesting play to see how this moves forward, but it's a natural progression for Shopify, rolling out a whole bunch of new functionality that caters to modern digital merchants. So it makes a lot of sense from my perspective. Next big piece of news was that BigCommerce acquires Feedonomics. Now, Feedonomics is a popular omni-channel data feed management platform. So effectively what it does is it can take your catalog information out of your e-commerce platform and push it into other channels. So it can push it into marketplaces, it can push it into social commerce channels, it can push it into other digital channels where both sales and marketing channels where you would want to market through. So whether that be because you want to have a Facebook shop or an Instagram shop, or you want to sell on Amazon, eBay, Catch, etc. Feedonomics is one of the platforms that makes this possible. So it effectively pushes out your data to those platforms, your catalog and product data. It slices and dices and modifies it and maps it to those channels in the way that those channels want to receive the data. And then when you make a sale on those platforms, if they're a transactional platform, it will pull down those orders and integrate them back into your e-commerce platform for fulfillment, and then it can push the fulfillment information back to those sales channels to trigger off updates to the customer about those fulfillments. So it makes sense. BigCommerce wants very much to be your commerce hub. They want to be the, I guess, single source of truth of digital transactions. Feedonomics is going to allow them to become much more of that centralized hub. It differs quite substantially from the approach that Shopify has taken, where Shopify has built out all of its channel connectors itself directly as native connectors within the platform. So BigCommerce is kind of shortcutted that entire process by acquiring a platform that's already built out all those connections. Now, I read the announcement in depth, and it wasn't really clear yet whether Feedonomics will now become free for all BigCommerce merchants, whether it will only be free for some BigCommerce plans, whether it won't be free at all, and whether it will just continue on as a paid service. They didn't make it clear, for example, whether it would be free for enterprise merchants or B2B edition merchants. And then they also didn't make it clear whether they were going to remove, I guess, its connectors to other sources of product information like Shopify and make it a BigCommerce native only and kill it off in terms of being able to ingest data from other e-commerce platforms and other sources that then gets pushed out to those other marketplaces and other channels. So it was a bit light on detail, the announcement. It was purchased for $145 million. So not a massive purchase, not $1 billion purchase or anything like that, but a significant purchase. And it will help them to improve their omni-channel capabilities out of the gate quite substantially by having this underneath the BigCommerce umbrella. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they roll this out to their merchant base globally. I think it's originally only going to be available to BC merchants in the United States, and then they'll slowly roll that out globally. So it can be very interesting to see how they play that. For now, they've said that Feedonomics will remain a standalone product for the time being. So stay tuned for further announcements by BigCommerce. And of course, I will bring those announcements to you as I hear about them. Yeah, another big announcement that came out this week was that Walmart is going to start selling its omni-channel capabilities and technology and platform tech to other businesses. Now, this is significant because this is yet another large retail-based business, retail-focused business that has really built its business on the back of AI and smart technology and in-house developed omni-channel commerce technology, fulfillment technology. Walmart spends billions and billions of dollars internally developing its technical capabilities to go to market. It's built its own e-commerce marketplace to compete with the likes of Amazon and eBay. So they are an absolute technical powerhouse in their own right, independent of their retail capabilities and their retail channels. Now, as part of this announcement, they also announced a strategic partnership with Adobe for their Adobe Commerce platform. So this is the first platform, I guess, that they're going to do this integration with, where you will be able to leverage Walmart's omni-channel capabilities inside of your e-commerce platform if you're running Adobe Commerce / Magento Commerce. So it's just Adobe Commerce is effectively Magento Commerce, just rebranded as Adobe Commerce. And they said that it will be available for not only the Adobe Commerce proprietary platform, but also Magento open source. The connector for Walmart's technology will be made available for both platforms. Now, what has Walmart said they're actually going to provide? Well, they've given a pretty clear list. You are going to be able to show store pickup eligibility and available pickup times online through your e-commerce store. You'll be able to offer multiple pickup options, curbside versus in-store, etc. You'll be able to provide your store associates with mobile tools to pick orders, to validate item selection, availability, handle substitutions, etc. And they also provide native tooling to communicate with customers about their pickup orders, i.e., when is that order available for collection. And also it will provide the interface for customers to notify the merchant when they are there where to pick up the item, or when the ETA is that they would actually like to pick up the item for curbside pickup. So this is very similar to other distributed order management platforms like Stock in Store and other technologies that aid in this whole move to, I guess, as friction-free omni-channel collection options as possible for consumers. Now, one of the other pieces or parts of this announcement that I think was pretty important is that the partnership allows retailers to syndicate and sell their products across the Walmart marketplace. Now, this is in line with another big announcement that Walmart made this week, that they've doubled the number of sellers on their marketplace from 50,000 to 100,000 sellers since July of 2020. So July 2020 to July 2021, they've gone from 50,000 sellers to 100,000 sellers. Now, as with all marketplaces, not everybody that registers and is approved to sell in a marketplace actually goes out and starts selling, at least straight away. So they called out that 35,000 out of those 100,000 sellers have products listed for sale right now on the marketplace. So about 35%. So obviously they're going to be looking to increase the participation rate of the approved sellers on their marketplace over the next 12 months, but very, very rapid growth in the marketplace that is Walmart. So it also follows recent deals by Walmart with Shopify and BigCommerce that makes it easier for merchants on those platforms to both be approved for and list their products on Walmart's marketplace, which is notoriously difficult to, I guess, get listed on and approved to be listed on. So Walmart definitely trying to just, I guess, give better options for their suppliers who want to sell directly through their marketplace, directly to end consumers, trying to beef up those capabilities and trying to, I guess, monetize some of the investments in technology, omni-channel technology that they've been making over the last decade or so, and trying to turn a cost center into a profit center while at the same time increasing availability of products on their marketplace and the clip of the ticket that they can get from the merchants that sell on their marketplace. Very interesting moves by Walmart. Going to be interesting to see if they make that, because this is a US only initiative right now. Going to be interesting to see whether they expand that more globally and roll this out more substantially like an Amazon global type of a play, or whether they retain this as kind of a North American centric initiative. The next few pieces of information or news that have come out really are focused on social media and commerce, social commerce tech. And the first bit of news is Facebook has announced this week that their Ray-Ban smart glasses initiative are coming soon. Zuckerberg himself made this announcement, and they should be here by the end of 2021. Now, they have previously announced that their smart glasses were coming. They've announced huge investment into full-blown AR glasses, and they took great pains in this particular announcement this week to clarify that the glasses that are going to be released this year are not full-blown AR glasses. They are smart glasses. Now, I couldn't tell you what that actually means because they were very, very light on detail about what they consider to be the difference between smart glasses and AR glasses, what features their smart glasses that are going to be released this year will actually include, and what the AR glasses of the future will have that these glasses will not have. So it's going to be interesting to see what they actually release as live functionality. But interestingly, these smart glasses are being released by the Facebook Reality Labs, FRL for short, which is basically the division of Facebook that focuses on XR technologies, so alternate reality technologies. Both augmented and full virtual reality and mixed reality technologies, of which Facebook is pouring just billions of dollars of investment into these alternate reality technologies in what they call the future metaverse, which they're trying to create a metaverse type concept within Facebook to where you can create all of these different alternative reality experiences directly within their platform from a developer perspective and from a consumer perspective. So let's just watch this one. I'm going to be watching it closely. You know, hopefully it looks better than something like a Google Glass or something like that, because we don't want to, you know, all look like a bunch of glass holes. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Ray-Ban styling and design and quality translates into something that is a smart glasses tech and what functionality that brings to the table over a standard mobile device. Next piece of news is that Twitter has just started testing shopping in e-commerce, and they've been talking about this for the last couple of years, and they've dropped hints about it, and they've talked about how it might work, but they're actually starting now to release this pilot program for creators in the United States and for brands in the United States for brand profiles. And it's going to be very interesting how they roll this out, because the pilot program is only available for businesses right now to sell their goods from their business profiles on Twitter. And again, this is a North American only initial pilot program and rollout. They've called it the shopping module is what they've named it. And the whole point behind this is to compete with the likes of Pinterest and other social platforms that are rolling out their own in-app commerce functionality. And they, Bruce Falk from Twitter, just basically called it straight out. And he said, we're in very early explorations right now. We're excited about the potential of shopping on Twitter and eager to learn more as we go. And they were very open about the fact that they've dabbled with this in the past, that they've released some test functions in the past and tried it, but then they shifted to other features as the competition in the social space heated up due to COVID. They had to pivot away from commerce because it's a pretty complex thing to start bringing into a platform, but they are back. It's a massive focus for them, and let's just see what they bring to the table that maybe differentiates themselves from other platforms in terms of how they weave commerce functionality into that social experience of Twitter. Now, I don't really have much of a position on this. You know, Twitter is nowhere in ANZ. I hardly ever use Twitter. I hardly ever log into Twitter. It seems like a place full of sort of angry, vitriolic trolls half the time. And so it's, you know, I don't know that much about Twitter. I don't profess to be a Twitter expert, but certainly all social platforms are having to think long and hard about how they weave commerce functionality into that content stream in a non-interruptive way. So I'll be keeping an eye on Twitter, if for no other reason than to keep an eye on their commerce moves. So let's just see how this plays out over time. Now, in line with this, TikTok, as we know, has already been starting to roll out as a pilot program, also its own suite of commerce functionality. Now, its sister platform in China, Douyin, has had commerce functionality in app for a few years now. It's just taken a long time for TikTok to work out how exactly this is going to work in different Western countries and different tax jurisdictions. And there's a lot to think about, and also multiple currencies, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot to work out for any social media app that wants to integrate commerce functionality into their platform. However, what TikTok has done, I guess, in the lead up to this wider rollout of commerce functionality is to increase their video limit length from 60 seconds to 3 minutes. Now, that follows Instagram's announcement earlier in the week that they upped their length from 30 seconds to 60 seconds to match TikTok, but then TikTok immediately leapfrogged them and went to 3 minutes. So when Instagram Reels was announced, which is their competitor short video functionality that competes with TikTok, it was originally a 15-second limit, then it jumped to 30 seconds. Now Reels is 60 seconds. TikTok just went from 60 seconds to 3 minutes in anticipation of the need for brands to be able to run longer campaigns, longer skits, also the opportunity for creators themselves. Think celebrity chefs here, for example, that want to put tutorials on TikTok. 60 seconds is a pretty short time to be able to do a tutorial about anything other than perhaps a short dance or a shuffle or something like that. So they've called out the fact that one of the motivations for moving to 3 minutes is so that these broader campaigns, these broader, sort of teach and learn style campaigns that people want to do on TikTok, that will be able to support that training model or that learning model. Very interesting stuff coming out of TikTok land. So let's just keep an eye on them and keep an eye on as those commerce functionalities start to come to light and how they're going to roll that out, weave that into the experience on TikTok of consuming in the feed. Next pretty big piece of news here is that Klarna, which is the Sweden-based buy now, pay later platform, global platform, absolutely major player in the buy now, pay later space. They've bought an influencer marketing platform called Apparel, which is an acronym APPRL. And it's really amazing to watch how Klarna has started to diversify away from fintech and payments into full-blown retail / e-commerce technology. So they recently announced, it was only, I think it was 3 weeks ago or around there, that they announced that they bought e-commerce tech platform Hero, which is an interactive store technology that allows store salespeople to interact via video direct with consumers via the Hero app and its white labeled versions for retailers. So Klarna is just absolutely out there with a vengeance. Now we know that they have big plans to continue making retail platform and technology acquisitions to fuel demand, not only for their buy now, pay later service, but vice versa, that they can drive cross-marketing across these technologies into all of the retailers that they work with. And they recently announced that they raised $639 million from a whole big tranche of investors, including SoftBank and a bunch of others. So they're clearly on the warpath of acquisition to try to, I suspect it's probably more than just turning these technologies into additional sales channels for the Klarna buy now, pay later service. I guess it's to have that deeper embedded relationship with retailers that goes beyond buy now, pay later, as the buy now, pay later space gets much more competitive, and it feels like there's a new buy now, pay later service announced every single month. And so, yeah, they're being pretty smart about trying to diversify how they connect with and become stickier with their retail partners. So super interesting stuff coming out of Klarna. Some other announcements. On Thursday, I dropped the latest at the Coalface podcast with Jason Andrew from SBO Financial. And we were talking on the podcast about e-commerce profitability and other key business metrics. Now, as we know, in the world of e-com, in the world of big global retail brands, particularly ones that are looking at going public, already are public, when shareholders start to think about valuations of businesses, the talk almost always centers on growth. What was your revenue growth? What was your sales growth? What was your week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year sales growth? Is it on an upward, up and to the right trend? And if it is, we're going to continue to increase your valuation as a company and reward revenue growth at all costs, acquisition at all costs. And as a result of that, there's been a loss of focus on actual profitability and businesses' ability to have enough profitability to stay sustainable over the long term if they don't have access to cheap capital via investor funds. So you're going to love this podcast episode. I really enjoyed Jason's take on this because he continues through all of his content. And of course, because he's a financial accountant and because he's a business advisor, he is coming at this through the lens of strong financial rigor. What are the KPIs as a business, not just profitability, but what are some of the other KPIs, financial KPIs that a business should be looking at to ensure that it remains sustainable over the long term. So please go and check that podcast episode out. I think you'll really enjoy it. I learned a ton, and hopefully you will learn a ton as well. Now, as a reminder, I'll be speaking at Retail Global New Zealand in Queenstown, August 17th through the 19th at the Queenstown Hotel in Queenstown. And there has been some changes to the lineups of speakers because of the lockdowns, the newest and latest lockdowns coming out of Australia, particularly out of New South Wales, and the announcement that that's going to stay locked down for an additional month. So I'm going to be taking on some additional speaking duties. I'm going to be taking on some additional panel duties, and also going to be taking place in I'll be participating in a fireside chat. So I'll be speaking 3 or 4, maybe 5 times down at this event. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you all there that are in New Zealand and will be coming to this event. Probably the biggest e-commerce focused physical event in 18 months or more. So I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of people that aren't going to catch up with that frequently, especially now in person. So also wanted to announce that I was recently on the Retail Doctor Group podcast with Brian Walker. So they're doing a series right now called the Future of Retail podcast series. My episode with Brian was released on the 26th of July. You can find it in every pod engine. It's called the Retail Doctor Group podcast with Brian Walker. Just search your podcast engine. You'll be able to find that. My episode came out 26th of July, and I was talking about stealth commerce, which is a trend transaction that consumers don't recognize as a transaction, and how increasingly transactions will have friction removed from them in ways that we just cannot imagine today. I'll pop the links to all of these episodes, my podcast, Brian's podcast, Retail Global, etc. I will pop the links to all of this into the episode notes. After this episode finishes, I'll go back and I'll put those links in the episode notes and the episode description so that you can click through easily to those and have a listen and have a watch. So it's been awesome to be with you today. I'll just jump back into the flow stream here. Don't have any comments, don't have any questions here. So thank you very much for your time again today. Awesome to spend time with you. And I look forward to being with you again next Friday for At the Coalface Live. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and keep your eye on that e-commerce news out there, because man, it's coming fast and furious. Have a fantastic weekend. Chat to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.